which is not a good argument. But nonetheless, for in the future, we're moving forward. That's why I'm supportive of the resolution. But somewhere to possibly think about where we look at this ballot statement and the limitation of number of words, whether it be 200 as we are at now, and then the question of having potential candidates, incumbents paying for to have their ballot statement put on there. When I have sat here in the city of Long Beach and went out and got registered voters, and therefore I was on there without this type of cost. So there's no right answer or wrong answer, but I don't think this has been looked at in so long. There may be some regulatory issues that I'm not really grasping at this point, but in the future where there may be, and that's why, again, I'm bringing it up now because it's not self-serving. I'm not up for an election, but it's something I've always felt that should be dealt with, but it's such a sensitive subject for people that are incumbents or are currently serving on the board, but just something for consideration in the future of if we even want to look at this. But I've always just been curious about it, and I always question sometimes why it is, but it is, and I'll support it tonight. But I would like to somehow look at it and maybe have, if we want to continue these current practices, or maybe look at possibilities of changing it as well. So thank you, President Otto.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, I just want to make a quick comment about that. I support the 200-word limit now, at least, because if it was 400 words, in order to get a ballot statement on, and I agree with Trustee Kellogg that that's sometimes the only thing that people read, but it would cost upwards of almost $8,000 to get a ballot statement printed on the ballot, and I think it discourages people from running for office, and in the interest of keeping as many people as possible able to not only run but effectively communicate, we ought to. I've always supported that particular limitation. If you can't say in 200 words what you're about, then you ought to think about what you're about, and whether there's an easier way to say it. So I mean, that's just my personal view, but anyway, appreciate the comments. There's a motion and a second. Without further comment, then I would ask for a roll call vote.
Irma Archuleta?
Aye.
Virginia Baxter?
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg? Aye. Doug Otto?
Aye.
Sunny Zia?
Aye.
Okay. We are back to the consent agenda. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately if a member of the Board of Trustees so requests. Are there any requests to pull any items?
Yes, I have 4 items, 5.4, 5.7, 5.13, and 5.15.
Okay. So at the request of Trustee Zia, we are pulling items 5.4, 5.7, 5.13, and I'm sorry, what was the fourth one?
5.15.
Oh, that's it, 5.15.
Yes.
So for the balance of the consent agenda, except for those 4 items, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Archuleta.
President Otto, could you hold? I'm still pulling the items.
Oh, pardon?
sorry.
Still
Oh,
pulling
okay.
the items and changing the
Okay.
vote for them.
I'll just tell some jokes for a while. Funny thing happened to me on the window. A Chineseman, a giraffe, and a man walk in a bar. No, you don't even. No, sorry. Okay, I'm stopping. Trustees, students from Lakewood, Milliken, and Poly High School walking. No.
Okay. Okay, I am ready.
Okay, great. So for the balance of the consent agenda, except for 5.4, 5.7, 5.13, and 5.15, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
A second by Trustee Zia. Any discussion? Can I have a roll call vote on the balance of the agenda?
Irma Archuleta?
Aye.
Virginia Baxter?
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg? Doug Otto?
Aye.
And Sunny Zia?
Aye.
Okay. Calling agenda item 5.4.
Okay, great. So this item, do you need me to wait, Jackie, or are you good? Okay. What's the total amount of the grant, the Goldman Sachs Foundation amount? And does the outreach and recruitment for entrepreneur business training include outreach to our students? That's one part of my question. So if you guys want to compartmentalize it, I could do it that way, or I just throw you the whole enchilada.
Well, let's start with
Oh.
that piece. I ask Executive Vice President Bynum to weigh in on that.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Trustee Zia, the Goldman Sachs Foundation grant that we have this year, the original amount was $3,015,759, and then we had a carryover amount of about $337,000. So the total grant for this current year is about $3.3 million.
And the outreach question?
And the outreach question, we do not outreach directly to our students because per the grant requirements, we have to outreach to current businesses that have, and there's a profile for those current businesses. They have to have been in business for 2 years. They have to have anywhere from 1 to 5 employees. They have to have anywhere from $450,000 to $5 million in revenues. And it's a certain segment of businesses that have been established and are at a point where they can be viewed through the application process as ready to launch to another level.
Okay, and how many local Long Beach businesses does this program support?
Well, the Goldman Sachs grant requires that we do outreach to the greater Los Angeles area. When we were established initially back in 2010, we were here to cover the Los Angeles area. We actually get people from all over Southern California and a few people from up north as well. But we have a specific effort also that goes on through our office to outreach to Long Beach businesses. We've graduated close to 600 Goldman Sachs scholars. That includes the Los Angeles City College site where we run a program there as well. But about 23% of our graduates are actually Long Beach-based businesses.
And do any of the businesses we support in Southern California hire our students for internships, or will there be an effort to invite them to do so?
Yes, we've had some of our CalWorks students have been placed with our Goldman Sachs businesses. There's been a few of those. We've had some Long Beach City College students intern in the offices for the Goldman Sachs program. And with the recent call by the mayor's office to increase the number of interns in the city of Long Beach, we are working in our alumni program. We are building an alumni program with the Goldman Sachs scholars now, and we'll be working with the alumni to encourage them to take our students as interns.
Do we have a number that we're striving to hit for our interns?
We'd like to have an intern at every business that graduates in the program.
Which is how many again? Or
We've had, Long Beach City College has had close to about 400 graduates. LACC site has had another 220 or 30 so graduates.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And to be, this is a little bit esoteric, but it used to be we were just the Long Beach site, and there was a separate site in LA at LA Community College District, but they've folded that program into our program as well, so we're managing both of them.
Yeah, our name is technically the Regional Southern California Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program.
Right.
Yeah.
Any more? Go ahead.
And this program is expiring in December?
The current grant agreement, which was extended for 3 months, ends December 31st. And they extended the grant agreement because they're putting all of the national programs on a calendar year. So rather than renew the grant agreement in September and through the end of the middle of next year, they just extended it for 3 months. We're going to start again in January, and we'll be funded. We are funded for 1 more year for sure in the original contract, and Goldman Sachs announced a few months ago another $5 million in funding to keep the program going after the original 5 years.
So it will be another year for 5 more million.
We get anywhere from about, we started off about 2.2 million. The last couple of 3 years, we've had around 2.8 to 3.1 million. It depends on the number of cohorts we run. We've been running about 5 cohorts a year with both programs. We may ratchet that down to 4 cohorts next year of 30 participants each, but it'll be anywhere from about 2.9 to 3.1 million for the program, for sure, for another couple or 3 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No further questions. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Trustee Zia, seconded by Trustee Archuleta. Any further discussion? Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Irma Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Baxter,
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg, Doug Otto,
Aye.
Sunny Zia.
Aye.
5.7. Oh, excuse me. Passes unanimously. 5.7.
Yes, I'm a little unclear as to what the description of this item and what the settlement is for.
Yeah. I had the same question. I felt like it was going to listening to a sports announcer saying now the baseball scores 4-3, 6-2, 5-1, and 2-0.
Yes, so I will turn it over to Vice President Gable to give as much detail as possible. Again, this is part of a settlement for a liability claim that was made against the district. So we are bound by the Brown Act, and we can only disclose so much information, but I will pass it over to Vice President Gable.
Thank you, President Oakley. Yes, this is a settlement agreement for a liability claim that was filed against the district. And the way that the wording is done is in accordance with the Los Angeles County Office of Education and their advisement on how to put the wording for settlement agreements. They request or advise that in order to preserve confidentiality, we list the case number, and when the case number is listed, that there's no need to reference the claimant or the amount of the settlement in open session. So the way that it's worded is in accordance with the Los Angeles County Office of Education. This settlement agreement was our large liability or potential liability claim that we had for Building A.
Further questions?
So I'd just like to know what I'm approving as far as can we not, can we not mention the amount, or is it possible to know what the value is that we're approving, or?
This one in
without the-
particular is for $28,000.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any further questions? Entertain a motion to approve agenda item 5.7.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Zia, seconded by Trustee Archuleta. I think the left side over here is letting me down. You're not making any motions anymore. More discussion. Call a roll call vote, please.
Irma Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Baxter,
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg, Doug Otto,
Aye.
Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Agenda item 5.13.
Yes, so I'm a little bit confused, or perhaps it's explanatory, and I'm fairly new, and I'm not quite getting the supervised field work and work experience agreements. Does any of this entail hiring our students, or does any of it have anything to do with internships for our students?
So I'll begin answering that, and I'll be happy to entertain the 2 cents of Vice President Gable or Executive Vice President Bynum, because Vice President Long is no longer with us. But these are all for existing programs that require work experience for the students. So these are specifically for students in programs that require some sort of either clinical or other work experience as part of the program. So we have to create agreements with the employers to allow the students to have that experience as part of their program.
So these are internships
They're not technically considered internships, they're considered work experience programs because they are part of an educational program, part of the grade, part of passing the class. So they're graded on it. So technically, it's not an internship. But it is work experience.
I'm assuming it's not paid, right?
Go ahead, Vice President Gable.
It can be. The field work contracts are required as part of the class, and so the students have to do outside field work in order to pass their class. There's no unit value attached to the field work piece of that. For work experience, the students do earn units, and they can either be paid work experience or unpaid work experience. And so the number of units that they earn, if they get paid, they have to work for 75 hours to earn 1 unit. And if it's unpaid, they have to work for 60 hours to earn 1 unit.
Okay, and how do we select these partners, or can we expand on these partnerships, or is it mainly faculty driven?
Much of it is faculty driven, depending on the program, because it is particularly if it is a requirement of the program, they are working. So, for example, our registered nursing program works with the local clinics and hospitals to negotiate opportunities for students to have clinical experience. Some of these, the work experience, we do work with the programs to try and support work experience. A lot of it, we sometimes receive funding for more work experience. That federal funding has been cut back drastically over the years. So it has been a challenge to expand it, but we are always looking for those opportunities. And as part of, again, what's mentioned earlier, the mayor's effort to have this discussion, these are discussions that are also happening at the meetings of Long Beach Call and other groups that are looking at how we expand work experience and internships.
Okay, Grace, I just want to commend you all, our staff and faculty, for providing this opportunity. This is great, and I look forward to supporting more of these kinds of efforts and supporting our students.
Any further questions or comments on 513? Not. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
I need a motion.
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. We need a motion. And it's moved by Trustee Zia, seconded by
Trustee Kellogg.
Kellogg. Attaboy. Get the left side over here. And a roll call vote, please.
Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Baxter,
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg, Doug Otto,
Aye.
and Sunny Zia.
Aye.
515.
Yes, so on the ratification of contracts under 175,000, a contract with, this is CN 99725.7 with Samir Dani for $142,000, the not to exceed value. Was this competitively procured, and how many proposals did we receive? Also, what's this amount based on?
Vice President Gable.
Competitively procured with RFQ 15004. We received 5 proposals, and the amount is based on $110 per hour, 25 hours a week for 50 weeks.
Okay, item CN 99725.8. What is the settlement agreement for? And is this compliant with the Brown Act as far as the description is concerned?
I will turn it over to Vice President Gable on the question of the settlement agreement. The Brown Act compliance is something that we do monitor, and in many of these cases, we're working with the attorneys involved in the settlement agreement on the language or the LA County Office of Education. So for the rest of that answer, I'll turn it over to Vice President Gable.
This is a liability settlement agreement.
Like the previous one.
Can you
Like the previous one, yes, but a different case.
can you at least give a reference to a particular project or what it's regarding? At the high level.
This
So I know
wasn't
what
a-
I'm
This
approving.
wasn't a project, this was an employment liability.
Okay. It just seems a little cryptic. I just want to know what I'm approving, and I'm not questioning the way it's disclosed. It's just it would be nice to see what or have some sort of an idea what it's about. And then the last one is this TLC auction. What's the reference to surplus property, and how was this firm selected? What's the basis for their 35% of gross sales? I'm assuming this has already been awarded since it's a ratification, and if so, is it correct to assume that it's under $175,000? And I'd also like to know where the money's going.
Vice President Gable.
Yeah, so TLC Auction is the contractor that we have contracted with to auction off and sell any surplus property that we have deemed surplus. So what we mean by surplus property, it's equipment typically that we have purchased and no longer have a need for. And if it exceeds $5,000, then we bring a board action to the board for you to deem it surplus property. And at that point in time, we will use this auction company to try to sell it on our behalf to try to get the best amount of money that we can, proceeds from selling the piece of equipment. The 35% of gross sales was based upon the proposal and negotiations. It's similar to what other community colleges and K-12 districts pay for auction services. And historically, we have never received more than $175,000 on a sale of surplus equipment. By the time we deem it to be surplus, it's pretty much useless to just about anybody. And for this contract to exceed $175,000, they would have to sell over $500,000 worth of equipment. And I've never seen that in my career at any district, not to mention here. Last year, just for reference, when we did have a big sale of surplus equipment, we received $64,000. It goes into the unrestricted general fund as a separate line item under the other sources of revenue.
And how were they selected?
It's a company that we have been using.
So it wasn't competitively selected, it was single sourced.
We did not go through an RFQ process, but for professional services such as this, the Public Contract Code does not require that we do an RFQ or RFP or bidding or anything.
Any more questions? Entertain a motion to approve 5.15.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Baxter, second by Trustee Archuleta. Roll call vote, please.
Irma Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg. Doug Otto.
Aye.
Sunny Zia.
Nay.
We are now finished with the consent agenda. We are now moving on to the Academic Senate. 6.1 has to do with certificates. Do we need a report, or does?
I think if we could take the motion, and then if the board has questions, Senate President Kane is ready to answer.
I would entertain a motion to approve agenda item 6.1.
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, who moved it?
I moved.
Pardon?
I moved.
Okay. Trustee Zia, seconded by Trustee Baxter. Academic Senate President Kane.
Well, you have 3 certificates in front of you on this particular item, and the process to get them to you is that the faculty deem a certificate necessary depending upon labor market statistics and that kind of thing, and then they work together to develop it, take it to a committee called Associate Degree General Education, or ADGE. From there, they work on it, it goes to curriculum, and then it comes to you. So it's already been vetted through 3 different faculty processes before it arrives here.
And these new certificates are all certificates of accomplishment in the areas of nursing assistant, home health aide, and personal trainer.
Yes.
What's the difference between a certificate of accomplishment and a certificate of achievement?
Unit value. So these are less than 18 units, and the achievement are 18 or more.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Irma Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg. Doug Otto.
Aye.
Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Agenda item 6.2, these are course additions to general education plans. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Zia, seconded by trustee Archuleta. So cutting to the chase here, this is to add Film 2B, Film History 2 for an inclusion on Plan A, Humanities Plan B, and in Area C1, Arts and Humanities, and Plan C, Area 3A, Arts and Humanities as submitted. Any questions? Roll call vote, please.
Irma Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg. Doug Otto.
Aye.
Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Agenda item 6.3, new modified or inactivated and reactivated courses. These are changes to course title, taxonomy of programs, code, transfer status, unit value, basic skill status, student accountability, model code, work experience, transfer level, funding category, or program status. These particular courses have been created or modified to meet Title V requirements, among other things. Entertain a motion to approve.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Archuleta, second by trustee Zia. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All in favor, roll call vote.
Irma Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg. Doug Otto.
Aye.
Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Great. Thank you. Agenda item 7.1. This is, it's an action item. It's recommended that the board approve the change of flex day for spring 2016 from March 1st to March 15th. That's next year. And the fall flex day from September 27 to September 20th as submitted. And I think these were requests from the faculty to a certain extent. Am I right or wrong about that? Greg?
They were discussed by the entire committee, and supported by the entire committee.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions? Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Zia, second by trustee Archuleta. Come on, you guys. Roll call vote, please.
Irma Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg. Doug Otto.
Aye.
Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Okay, it's now time for agenda item 8, reports. Is there a report from the Academic Senate President?
Very quick report. I would like to say, I'm sorry there's not more faculty here right now to hear what I'm going to say, but I'm really proud to represent the faculty as the Academic Senate President because of the many projects and initiatives and innovative ideas that they're coming forward with. You saw several of that tonight, but it's happening college-wide. The faculty are reveling in the fact that there is money to help support innovation, and they're not shying away from that. And so everyone's working very, very hard. And Noel referenced something today that I think we're all particularly proud of, that college-wide academic affairs, administrative services, student services all work together to put on an event today and another one on Thursday that supports student success, and it's in support of some of the mandates that we need to tackle. And I think we're witnessing and seeing kind of a revival of people figuring out how nice it is to work together and rely on one another. And so I want to compliment all the vice presidents, because the people in your areas just jumped when they had the opportunity to work on this type of a project, and it's been lovely. And I'll just say, you know, Noel and Noel Corral, who you heard from earlier, and Alicia Kryzinga, their areas came out in full force and helped in so many ways. And I mean, I could point to other people in the audience who've been involved, but every area volunteered, what can we do to help with this project? So it's kind of showing how we are responding to many of the student success initiatives and the way that people really do want to do the right thing for students at Long Beach City College. So I'm really proud to represent the faculty in this effort.